Okay, so now we're live streaming, so you can go ahead.
Okay. Could everyone please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Allegiance to the flag
of the
of the
United
United
States
States of
of
America
America.
and to the republic for which it stands,
Yeah.
one
One
nation,
nation,
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty,
and justice for all.
for all.
Casey, could you please call the roll call for us?
Yes. Ms. Klein,
Present.
Mr. Ellswick,
Here.
Mr. Fagan,
Here.
Mrs. Golden,
Here.
Mrs. Weber.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. I need a motion to accept tonight's agenda.
I move that we accept this evening's agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second.
Second.
All right, Ms. Courtwright, could you call the vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Ellswick,
Yes.
Mr. Fagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Golden,
Yes.
Mrs. Weber.
Yes. Okay, carries.
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Yes.
Attendant Jefferson, if you could start us out on our presentations tonight, please.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I would like to have Mrs. Heather Kushner, our Tiger Digital Academy Director, to introduce our Every Student, Everyday champion.
Good evening, Madam President, Vice President, and distinguished members of the board and guests. I'd like to start by thanking you for your continued service with our school system and our community. When given an opportunity to identify and celebrate the Every Student Everyday champion who strives to prepare our students for success in life by empowering and equipping our students for their future, I would like to honor a person who's been with the district since 2007. This individual has always been gracious and welcoming to all students, families, and staff. I have observed her welcoming new students into the Tiger Digital Academy and within her classroom. I have watched her build positive relationships that are meaningful as she has become a role model that our students are able to look up to and who value her input. She is passionate and purposeful in her instruction to students, challenging them to do their best and valuing their diversity and the perceptions and perspectives that they bring into her classroom. Her positive influence and interactions with students has a strong and lasting impact as they frequently look for her guidance and approval after they've left her room. She has built positive relationship with staff members through the educator support team and mentoring program, working with new teachers to provide guidance on how to support and build relationships with our students and families. And I'm honored to have the opportunity to introduce Susanna McMahon as the Every Student Everyday champion.
Thank you. Is she with us, I hope?
She is.
I'm here. I'm having trouble. There we go. Well, it won't let me unhide myself. Well, oh well, I'll just go from here. Thank you so much, Mrs. Kirshner, for your wonderful introduction and for all the great memories over the years. Thank you to the board, administration, colleagues, friends, family, and all my students, my kids, past and present, for this honor. Thank you for all your support and opportunity to get to do what I love doing each and every day with pride as a TY Tiger. It is now my privilege to introduce two more every student everyday champions. First is Adriana Box, but I am not seeing her. Adriana is currently a TDA, Tiger Digital Academy 10th grader, and I've known Adriana for about 2 years. Um, Before I tell you about this outstanding young adult, I need to tell you about when I knew her as a middle school student. I had Adriana in my in-person 8th grade social studies class. She was quiet and shy at first, and I noticed almost immediately that she had a style all of her own and was a people watcher. She was always kind and caring and concerned about others around her and would lend a helping hand to anyone in need. One day early on, I noticed that she was drawing on her notes, much like I used to do at her age. And I encouraged her to continue to do that because I knew it often helped me. Oh, there we go. Um, to remember information at times better than the actual notes. Not only did her grades improve, but I saw her begin to open up, begin to be a voice for those who felt voiceless, an advocate, and share more of her voice through her art. She began helping with the painting of various murals we had going up around our building and various other art projects that she volunteered to help us with. So I think it was either late fall or early spring that I signed a project of our unit that we were doing. And Adriana gathered all of her friends and created a short film reenacting a battle and part of her unit at the fort that's near senior high, and completed with props and action sequence, a storyline, and dialogue. It was still one of my most favorite student products I have turned in. And I also reached out to Mrs. Marks, our art teacher, and someone who has known Adriana for several years as well. Miss Marks had this to add. She's an amazing student. She used to come out and paint with our art group for First Fridays downtown and paint beside the carousel. She was always at art club and has helped in the murals in the middle school. She has continued making art on her own, and she works with computer art, and it's almost always work that is pride art. She had overcome many obstacles herself. Congratulations, Adriana, on receiving this award. You are so deserving of it, and we are so very proud of you. Next is Jacob Slade, and Jacob joined TDA from our Spanish immersion school. It has been my honor to be able to teach and have Jacob in 8th grade TDA social studies classes this year. He's always upbeat, works very hard, self-motivated, and is driven. He turns his work in on time. He has many different interests and hobbies outside of school, but definitely seems to enjoy school and pushing himself academically. More than that, though, I have seen Jacob go from being rather quiet to a student who has not only joins our various class group meetings, but who also welcomes students as they enter our class online. At times, he has led class discussions and helps others with their learning, and he is always well-mannered and has a very positive attitude. His laugh is contagious and has lightened many classmates' spirits. Jacob is currently taking many high school and advanced classes as an 8th grader, and with speaking with Miss Laura Mora, a teacher whom he's had for several years at Spanish Immersion, she agreed that Jacob is very deserving of this award. Sonora Mora added that he is an amazing student, funny with a great sense of humor in both Spanish and English, and he is taking 9th grade physical science and Spanish as well as advanced Spanish grammar. He is super caring for his classmates and his teachers. Congratulations, Jacob. I know you're on here. We are so very proud of you.
Jacob, have a few words for us tonight?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't have much to say, but I just want to thank everyone for this award.
Well, thank you, Jacob, and for Adriana for being Tiger Students of the month, and hopefully you will continue. And thank you, Miss McCann, for being that special teacher that has reached and touched students. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Good job.
Congratulations.
very good. Okay, Superintendent Jefferson, if you could continue, please.
Also at this time, Madam President, members of the board, I would like to introduce Dr. Holly Christie, our Director of Student Support Services and our 2021 District United Way Chairperson. Dr. Christie.
Thank you. And with us tonight is also Dan Varn. He is joining us from United Way. I just wanted to let you know, and I think Fayette's going to put some pictures up for me. We last year we collected $9,754.40 for United Way, which was the largest increase in funding from the previous year, which resulted in winning the Gopher Award. And from all the school districts around us, we had the highest amount, which made us decide that we wanted to set a goal this year for $10,000. We thought, let's just raise the bar. We can raise $10,000. Well, I'm happy to report that we surpassed that amount. We had a very successful campaign, raising $14,300. There's Stan and I as we got the Gopher this year. It was very exciting. And I am hoping this coming year that we will get to keep that Gopher in his Tiger clothing and not be in another school district. So I'm really hopeful that that's going to happen for this coming year as well. The other thing that we did this year was we are introducing the United Way Tiger Awards. And we decided that there were 2 schools that were worthy of this award, the United Way Tiger Award. And Prospect received the Small But Mighty Award. They raised a lot of money for a very small school. So you can see Mr. Jefferson and I went over to Prospect on Friday and they had a breakfast, and Allison Weeks is there. She helped to collect the money, which it's a big deal to have to do that. And Renee, of course, Renee Bessick, the principal there, led that. So you can see the tiger that they have. They will get to hold on to that for this year. The pictures below, Woodland is also receiving an award for the best and most participation from staff, which they won last year as well. So we're glad to see that they're continuing to do that. So you can see that I know Vanessa Heineman collected the money for that for us as well. And you can see the breakfast that we packaged up for everyone. We couldn't have it quite like last year, but it was an exciting campaign this year, and we're happy to see that it's continuing. I know Dan Barnes on here. He may want to say a word as well.
Yep, I'm here. My screen isn't turning on though, but I just can't thank the staff and the leadership enough for their support of our organization. I mean, the great thing about this was that over 100 staff members participated, and and that's the strength of United Way, is when we come together to support the community. And we are just so awe-inspired and appreciative of the staff's generosity during these challenging times. And their support is going to allow us to do so many important things to impact the community and the people that we serve throughout Richland County. So I cannot thank Stan and Holly enough, and everybody that participated, that supported, that that promoted all of it. A lot of lives were made, and a lot of differences made in a lot of lives of a lot of people, and we can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Christie. Mr. Varn, thank you so much for this honor. Hopefully we'll be able to keep that gopher and we'll keep it going, and hopefully we'll even top that 14,000 next year. So thank you very much for everything that you did.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any board member comments about anything?
I'd like to congratulate everyone who participated. And I would also like to say that I appreciate everything that Dr. Christie does with making sure that that happens every year and keeping everyone engaged. So thank you.
Okay. Right. Ms. Cartwright, do we have any public participation this evening?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right, moving on to item 6, board matters, adoption of approval. We have a resolution of intent to consider a reduction in force in the 2020-2021 school year for licensed, certified, and classified staff of the Mansfield City Schools District. Whereas the treasurer and the superintendent have provided the board with information regarding the current and projected financial condition of the Mansfield City Schools District. And whereas the board has determined that it is necessary to consider a reduction in force for financial reasons as a result of the projected budget deficit at the end of this current fiscal year. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board declares its intention to consider a reduction in force for financial reasons for licensed, certified, and classified staff members in the 2020-2021 school year in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code and the respective collective bargaining agreements, and directs the treasurer to serve notice of this resolution upon the MSCA president. So I have a resolution of intent to consider a reduction in force in the 2020-2021 school year for licensed, certified, and classified staff of the Mansfield City Schools District. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Cartwright, could you take the vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Fagan,
Yes.
Ms. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Ellswick,
Yes.
Mrs. Golden,
Yes.
Mrs. Weber.
Yes. This motion has passed, so the resolution will be given to the union tomorrow. Our next item is the Neola quarterly board policy updates and revisions. It's just a first reading. Mrs. Klein and I attended the meeting on Friday, and we went through the different revisions. Most of it was just word change and definitions. So if you will please look over those for our next meeting so that we can vote on them. Mrs. Klein, do you have anything else to add to that?
Just that, want to make sure that everybody takes a look and asks questions at the next meeting if you have any questions about the policy changes or the word changes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Superintendent Jefferson, you have a report for us?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I would like to give further information concerning on the resolution that had just been discussed and approved. According to our financial forecast presented in November of 2020, our school district is projecting a deficit of 1.2 million in fiscal year 2021 and 2.1 million in fiscal year 2022. Ohio school law, finance laws require us to present a plan to remedy that deficit. We believe that we can achieve many of these reductions through attrition and additional efficiencies. But in addition to that, we will have to determine whether we will have to make any staff reductions. Tonight, the Mansfield Board of Education has received and approved a resolution of intent to consider a reduction in force for the 2021-2022 school year for licensed, certificated, and classified staff members. We are working with all stakeholders within the Mansfield City Schools to come up with a plan that is the best interest for our students and minimize the impact to our schools and to our staff.
All right, thank you for that information. Next, we have the treasurer's report, the approval of the treasurer's agenda, board minutes. Do I have a motion to accept the board minutes from January 19th, 2021? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Courtwright, could you call the vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Ellswick,
Yes.
Mr. Fagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Golden,
Yes.
Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item is approval of the January financial reports. Ms. Courtwright, do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
Sure. And I do want to piggyback on Mr. Jefferson. We have been working very diligently since I got here in August on May forecast had already been generated, and I looked at that very carefully when I got here. We had been having meetings with all the schools, the principals, and administrations to look at all costs. We're looking at contracts, purchase services, materials that we're buying, subscriptions that we have, and staff that we have at the buildings. So we have been looking at this very carefully, and we are trying to minimize any reductions that we would have in the classroom to support our students and our families in the community. Our budget does remain tight. Funding is very uncertain. We are coming out of a very difficult year with a pandemic. We are working very carefully to look at our school and our financial pictures and make sure that we have had the least amount of impact to our students. We are working on trying to cut most of these costs through attrition and resignation. We've reorganized staff this year to minimize the reductions that we have in the buildings. We have tried to repurpose where we can versus hiring new staff. We have committed to, we do commit to our teachers and the staff in the community to keep them informed along the way. And as President Weber said, we will be meeting with the union later this week and working with them to gather our plans and work with them to see what that looks like for us for the 2021 school year. And hold on a second, because I do have 2 donations. I gotta flip on here. We received a $10,000 donation from the Mansfield Fire Department and the Recreation Club. It's to be used for educational purposes. And we also received a donation from Gorman Rupp for $1,575.92 for Sherman Elementary for educational needs for the students.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize, I jumped ahead of myself.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, I did. That's my doing. So we'll need to go back because we have approved the board minutes. We'll need to approve your December financials and the gifts to the district. So I do apologize for that. So could I have a motion to accept your financial report from January and then the gifts to the district?
So moved.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Cartwright, could you take the vote?
Sure can. Ms. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Ellswick,
Yes.
Mr. Fagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Weber,
Yes.
and Ms. Klein. Oh, wait, nope, sorry, Mrs. Golden.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that carries, and I do apologize. I think I need new glasses. All right, next we have item 9, superintendent's recommended contracts. Superintendent Jefferson, if you could speak to these, please.
Thank you again, Madam President and members of the board. We have a number of contracts, and our first contract is for a professional development contracted through Dr. Christie's office. Dr. Christie, would you please speak to that contract?
Yes, this contract is with Dr. Adriana Howard, who is actually a Tiger alumni. She is working with the district on equity and cultural competency training. She's worked with individual buildings. All the buildings are getting a similar experience. It's also working with strategies to cultivate safe and equitable environments. And she will be continuing that work this year.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Contract C, D, E, and F. The remainder of these contracts will be discussed by Jonathan Burris, our Director of Pupil Services, to address these. Mr. Burris, would you address C, D, E, and F?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jefferson, and good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Contract C is a contract for some additional occupational therapy assistant services. We were running a little bit tight on our OT services, so Mid-Ohio helped us patch that for the remainder of the school year. Contract D has actually been something that we've done for a couple of years. This was meant to be on the big Mid-Ohio contract, but they told us that it couldn't because it's variable. It's a variable contract, so it had to be taken out. But these services are services that we've agreed to in the past. Contract E is exciting. We continue to provide other area districts with some of our expertise and services. In this case, Ashland City Schools is contracting for a little bit of our homebound intervention services for a kiddo that we co-care for. And those are actually the contracts that I was going to speak to. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, I would actually like to turn it over to Mr. Rizzo, who will introduce letter F.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board and administration. Dr. Reynolds and I will be talking to you a little bit tonight about Ohio's social emotional learning standards and our plan to address those standards with some materials. So I will give you just a quick background. So the Ohio Department of Education in the last year has specifically adopted social emotional learning standards for schools and districts. And I do want to read to you this definition, which is cited on the Ohio Department of Education website, but the source is really CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. So when we talk about what are the SES standards, social emotional learning is the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So that's a lot. And all of this is rooted in Ohio's updated strategic plan for education and the 4 learning domains that they established. And we briefly have touched on those before. But in addition to the foundational skills, which focus on literacy, numeracy, and technology, the academic content standards across the disciplines, leadership and reasoning, a piece that has received a lot of emphasis in recent years is the social emotional learning. And all of those are geared at the whole child and preparing students for success after K-12, pre-K-12 education, whether they go straight to a career or college. The standards are organized by grade bands. There are 5 competencies addressed in the standards: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. And these standards were a little bit unique in the sense that Ohio has left it up to the local district to determine how they are addressed locally and to what extent. And certainly we have recognized the importance to address this type of work with our students. And over the course of several years, but especially in the last year, Dr. Reynolds has been working with teams of educators to help ensure that our learning environment is productive and that we're able to meet students' needs in these areas. So I am going to turn it over to her at this point and let her talk about her work around the materials.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I am going to share my screen. There's just a short presentation I wanted to provide some resources for. I do first want to thank the board and the district for acknowledging the social emotional standards and the importance that they play in the whole child and in the academic achievement of our students. What I've done is, and I'll take you through a brief timeline of it, but the social emotional curriculum that I would propose to adopt for the district is called AIM, for Accept, Identify, and Move. It is a curriculum based on applied behavior analysis principles. And the way that we came about landing at this curriculum were roughly a year ago, we started to gather a group of individuals that had some behavior training. And then over summer last year, that group of individuals engaged in a curriculum search and study. The group did include general education teachers, intervention specialists, paraprofessionals that did represent a variety of grade levels across the building, and as well as formats, so Tiger Digital as well as brick and mortar. This school year then, teachers from that group piloted elements of the AIM program. And then this fall of this school year, the proposal was presented to both elementary and secondary curriculum subcommittees and did receive approval from those subcommittees. This winter, then more recently, we presented it to the formal curriculum committee and received approval. A little bit about the curriculum, the theory, it does integrate 3 elements. So it integrates mindfulness, acceptance commitment therapy, and applied behavior analysis. So all 3 of those frameworks mesh together to form the curriculum AIM. The framework of those practices, accepting, identifying, and move is what's encompassed in the curriculum. So accepting, having emotional awareness, psychological flexibility is what acceptance commitment therapy addresses. And although we will not be providing therapy, it's based on the framework of acceptance commitment therapy. And a lot of it is for students that have experienced trauma and in trauma-informed care, that they learn strategies to accept what is outside of their control. And then identifying what's important to them, their values. So rather than us telling them these are the values, what you should find valuable and important, they're able to develop those themselves. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, we want to clarify, what they want their future to be about, what they want to do. And that could look very different for different students. You know, it could be the next day, or it could be 10 years from now. And then the move aspect is that we want students to engage in behaviors that are able to contact those experiences and the rewards that are meaningful to them, that reinforcement that that they find beneficial. So the components of the curriculum, again, there's that mindfulness practice, and I'll get into a little bit more detail in a second here. And then functional reinforcement, there is progress monitoring. There are daily lessons. ACT would be the acceptance commitment therapy lessons, and then a point system that's already being implemented in many of the buildings this year. So the lessons are roughly 10 to 30 minutes. It completely allows for autonomy for our teachers to, you know, and engage in more in-depth of the lesson depending on the needs of their classroom. They'll be implemented in either homeroom, social studies, or advisory periods. That just depends on the grade level. As you know, our older grades don't necessarily have a homeroom. So we wanted to make sure that it is implementable for all grade levels. The mindfulness exercises would be implemented daily across all grade levels. The point system is a token economy, and that reinforcement would be district-wide. Right now, the social emotional curriculum, it does integrate the behavioral, the psychological needs, social emotional needs of students, and it uses those evidence-based theories and techniques. It does incorporate a lot of art, music, writing, drawing, and then discussion aspects. There's activities that are tiered for our students that teachers are able to implement. And then there are a lot of products that are generated, tangible products, that can be used with our students, can be sent home, can be displayed, so that they do have something to remind them of the lesson. And it does have the focus on social skills, emotional regulation, and then life lessons. I'd be happy to entertain any kind of questions or comments, concerns, anything.
Annie, I appreciate the work that you're doing. You do outstanding work. You always have in our district. And I appreciate this work with the social and emotional learning. It's huge, and it makes a tremendous impact on how students are learning, how they're receiving information, how they're processing it, how they're self-managing, just all of those different things. I really appreciate what you're doing and the entire team of people. I attended the Mental Health and Social Emotional Learning Summit at the Ohio School Boards Association, and they have a wealth of information. I really encourage all of our board members to take a look at some of the things and see what our district is doing for our students, because it's huge. And I believe that it's going to make a tremendous impact on their learning. So
thank you so much, Ms. Klein. I really do appreciate your kind words. And actually our teacher that was celebrated tonight, Ms. McMahon, she was part of that pilot team. She's implemented it very successfully in the Tiger Digital Academy, which was great to see. It was obviously, before the pandemic, we weren't really sure how that would look in a digital world. But she does incorporate mindfulness and the token economy and everything in her digital forum. But I really do appreciate your kind words.
I do have one question. Is this implemented? You said, I know it's all grade levels, but would it be to the entire staff? So that would include like art, music, PE. Are they also going to be have this professional development?
Yes, so that's a great question. So the way that we envisioned it is that, yes, that would be, the training would be provided to all teachers, all intervention specialists, all staff at a tier 1 level. And then the idea is that those acceptance commitment therapy lessons, those would be, although everybody would be trained on it, those would be delivered specifically in, either homeroom, social studies, or advisory periods. However, the mindfulness, the breathing, that would be delivered daily during homeroom, advisory, social studies, but as well as needed and hopefully regularly in those exploration classes, the PE, art, music, other classes, throughout the day. That's not something that has to be done just once a day and then we're done. That's going to be something that I'm hopeful is used a lot of times during the day when the students might have just come back from recess or lunch or gym and might need that couple minutes to just center themselves before jumping into academics so that they're more prepared and ready to learn. So yes, all teachers would receive the curriculum book. Grade level teachers and intervention specialists would receive supplemental materials that are what our group looked at, and our Spanish immersion would get a little bit different supplemental materials just because we'd want them in Spanish. But other than that, grade levels, whether they're in 3rd grade at Sherman or Prospect or Woodland, they would get the same materials. And the curriculum guide is applicable to all grades. So the lessons in there, are going to be this. It's going to be the same book whether they teach kindergarten or 12th grade. And then it tiers the lessons and provides that autonomy for teachers to tailor it to a kindergarten classroom or a 12th grade classroom.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Anyone else have any more questions? All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Reynolds and Mr. Rizzo for that presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, any other questions from anyone? Okay. Can I please have a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommended contracts B, C, D, E, and F?
I move that we approve the superintendent's recommended contracts.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Cartwright, could you take the vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Ellswick?
Yes.
Mr. Fagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Golden?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes. That motion carries, and we go to personnel actions. Superintendent Jefferson, you can speak to your recommended personal actions if you have any.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, we have 2 resolutions that are on our personnel actions. I would like to have Mr. Wilczek, our Director of Human Resources, to address these 2 resolutions.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Madam President and board members. I would like you to take a look at, hang on a minute, let me click through here. Item B and C, resolution to terminate Jen McAllister. And then item C, resolution to expand the employment of substitute teachers for House Bill 409. That will be until the end of the school year to allow individuals who have an associate's degree to substitute with us. And of course, they are subject to all pre-employment and screening per our board policies. And then the recommendations for personnel are customary and ordinary, and those actions are listed. Do you have any questions?
Item B, we have a resolution to terminate Jennifer McAllister's employment on the grounds of violation of written rules and misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance to the district. And we direct the treasurer, the grounds of malfeasance are as set forth by the Board of Education, job abandonment, inefficiency, and other misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance, and direct the treasurer to serve upon her notice of this board's action by certified mail. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Wilczek? If not, I need a motion for the resolution to terminate Jennifer McAllister's employment with the district.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Ms. Cartwright, could you take the vote, please?
Yes. Mrs. Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Ellswick?
Yes.
Ms. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Fagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber.
Yes. This resolution moves. Our next resolution is to expand the employment of substitute teachers consistent with the amended Substitute House Bill 409. Pursuant to the authority granted in Section 3 of amended Substitute House Bill 409 of this 133rd General Assembly, signed by Governor DeWine on or about January 7th, 2021, the Mansfield City Schools District Board of Education authorizes the employment of substitute teachers as needed who hold an associate degree as otherwise required pursuant to Ohio law and regulations, including Ohio Revised Code 3319.226 and 3319.30, Ohio Administrative Code Section 3301-23-44, and/or board policy, provided that all other applicable requirements and procedures, including successful completion of a criminal background check and evidence of a non-renewable temporary substitute teaching license issued by the Ohio Department of Education, have been satisfied. This is a temporary resolution of the Mansfield City Schools District Board of Education, and the authority granted by this resolution extends from the effective date through June 30th, 2021. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Wilczek? Okay. I need a motion for the resolution to expand employment of substitute teachers consistent with the amended Substitute House Bill 409. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move it. Go ahead, Linda.
I'll move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Cartwright, could you take the vote?
Yes. Mrs. Golden.
Yes.
Ms. Klein.
Yes.
Mr. Ellswick.
Yes.
Mr. Fagan.
Yes.
Mrs. Weber.
Yes. That resolution carries. Thank you all. Anybody have anything else for the good of the order?
I don't think we voted on the personnel actions. On A.
All right, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We need
Oh.
to
Any
vote
questions?
on the recommended personnel actions from the superintendent. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
I'll third.
Thank you. Ms. Cartwright, could you please call the vote?
Yes. Mrs. Golden. Mr. Ellswick.
Yes.
Mr. Fagan.
Yes.
Ms. Klein.
Yes.
Mrs. Weber.
Yes. So the superintendent's recommended personnel actions are carried. Again, thank everyone. If anyone has, and we are adjourned. Do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Cartwright, could you take the vote, please?
Mr. Fagan.
Yes.
Ms. Klein.
Yes.
Mr. Ellswick.
Yes.
Mrs. Golden.
Yes.
Mrs. Weber.
Yes. Meeting is adjourned. The time is 6:18. We will have our next meeting on Tuesday, March 16th at 5.